We were brought here by the complaints made against the voters register. I thought that the focus on the register, because it was bloated, was limited. I hope that the panel will not also be limited in their search to finding answers to some of the challenges that face electoral system. You see, apart from the bloatedness, you also have those who try to take advantage of the bloatedness. That is more crucial than the fact that the voters register was bloated. Also, the bloatedness of the register we have seen as legendary. It's a seasonal thing. It has been happening all the time. You might not even find an answer to it. So I think that those who were complaining about it, they should have given us insight into the best way that we can circumvent, we can actually neutralize those who are trying to tap in from the bloatedness. Because the moment you neutralize it, it might be there as bloated, but it cannot have effect on the elections. So I want to rather say that these considerations might be taken into account. One of them is that the screening of the voting is by this time not even necessary. It's not, we don't have to screen it anymore. After all that the party saying this is that he's going to drop his ballot paper into it. But it has a danger and the capacity that people can load their pockets with. So many of them and put them all in. And the screening affords them that leverage. And they are able to do it. So if we make it open after all, I mean the secrecy, I don't see how it benefits anybody. And second also, the commission also should try to restrict itself, the excess votes which are printed. I don't think they are necessary now, because it also gives people the chance to take advantage of the bloatedness of the register. If we do that, then we can control it. Then the other one also is the issue which was touched on yesterday. The polling station agents, they are so crucial. Virtually, they are the people who are able to help in the policing of the system. Not all the political parties are able to afford it. But their lack of resources to be able to live up to that expectation should not cost the commission and the people of Ghana the chance to police the system. Because there's a tendency for electoral commission to say, you are supposed to provide agents. If you don't provide agents, I think we should now move away from that sphere and let us resource the polling agents so that they will be there. Okay, I can vigilant. Well, the other one also is that the structure of political parties might be looked at again. We have got the leaderships which are there, but there are hidden forces within the parties that do not make the leaders even feel comfortable and safe. You see, and their power stems from the fact that they control money. If you don't ask them, they even bring it. And the moment they bring the money, they begin to make your life a hell. So, some people refer to them as invincible forces. You see, I know that in a struggle for power, a certain inconvenience, they are unavoidable. There's nothing you can do about it. People are so desperate for power that they can do anything. The only comparison is in the case of 1 Samuel chapter 22. In the Bible, the struggle between David and Saul. They were all anointed of God. And yet you could see Saul was so desperate. He even had to slaughter some priests just because they had spoken to David. We are having a system like that where the desperation is too much and something ought to be done about it. If the priest can do something about it. And also, for me, the danger is the spiritual side of it. We saw Saul going to the witch of Endor. Our people, everything, shrines, everything. Oh, it's terrible. You see, and when these forces are, they invoke them for winning elections, but they don't invoke them for development. Please, it's enough. I won't say much.
Thank you, BPP. Now the floor is open. I mentioned questions, but if you have any fruitful contribution.
The first question comes this way, from here.
Okay.
The first question goes to the our honorable independent presidential candidate in the last elections. He's not here, huh? Now, he is here. I say the first person goes to our honorable independent presidential candidate in the last elections. You did allude to the fact that expunging or cleansing or production of a new register is only a matter of semantics. That whichever case, it only entails verifying the individual. If what I have just quoted is true, that you actually alluded to it, in that case, can I assume that we are on course in the sense that the voters' register from time to time is exhibited? At times we are called on to go to verify our registration and so on and so forth. New qualified persons are taken on board from time to time. Will it therefore suggest that we are on course according to your definition or the presentation you made? The second question is to the Independent People's Party. Mr. Apalu, you specifically mentioned a name and referred to registration.
One of the EC, and is because she pointed out that one of the important qualities is security, how secure the register is. So I want her to help us clear some of the maybe not so correct statements or whatever. So I'll ask my question. But I note that what we saw does encryption end to end, implying that unless you have some secret keys, you cannot see from the beginning to the end. You can't see even inside the data, the register itself. Okay. Secondly, it appears that all the data that you see in the actual register database must have come from a machine like we saw. Right? So I can't just go and put data there because there will be no such machine on the database machine, server, or whatever you call it. Okay. Third observation. It has come to my notice that the numbers, the ID numbers themselves, actually even have some secret codes, okay, from which they can determine if the number is fake. All right? They can even trace all the way to the particular machine on which you registered, from what I understand. Meaning, I'm making the preliminary basis. I'm pointing out that there's been some specific efforts made to secure the register. Now comes my question, Madam. Are you aware of any intrusion or attempt by any means, cyber or physical, to compromise the register?
What is a lady and a gentleman? Compromise their office and decide to register me in any corner of their office. because I could not register and I want them to do it for me unofficially. And if I have any other number of people with me, I pull to her somewhere in some restaurant with the machine, since she has access to it, or in her office, and request her to register, please register these people for me. Is it possible for such registration to take place?
Mr. Chair, it will depend on the time and the date you cornered them in the restaurant. During registration periods, which we announce publicly, we send out the machine, we send out the groups with the BVR kits, and the security system is set up so that only the person who is authorized to head the process can use his biometric details to start the machine, so that you can even open it up for registration. So clearly, if we have a registration period going on, the number of machines we will send out will depend on the number of registration centers. And they would clearly have more than 2 staff at the center. They will also have the party agents and all the other security in place. So if 2 people would take the machine to a restaurant to hide there and do registrations, it would be outside the hours and the dates set for registration. Once you do a registration outside those hours, any registration you do would come automatically onto the exception list. It would not go directly into the database. And if you remember the presentation, those are the things that are brought up and they are challenged, and we look at it also during the exhibition. For every single valid registration in the system, if you pull it up even today, it will tell you the date in 2012 when that registration was effected and the time of day. And those are times and dates that cannot be changed by anyone. The system generates that. So that's an additional security element in the system. As to attempts at intrusion, well, this is almost like asking if there have been attempted break-ins into my house. I wouldn't know. But have there been any successful ones? No. Going into 2016, one of the things we are putting in place is enhanced security and an audit trail, so that even any attempts would pop up and we can have a list to see all those who attempted to compromise the system. But as we go forward, we keep trying to improve the system. Thank you.
Yeah. One part of my question is addressed, which is that the audit trail may not be in place, but will be in place. My question is, yes, we have all these data. We have every record would be tagged according to when it was registered. Has there been consistent analysis of the records in terms of distribution of registration, so that the idea is, if you have people who really want to manipulate the system and it goes to the exception list, they have a way of working the system, but hopefully they haven't changed the other tags. So if you had an analysis of the whole database, you would know whether some things which should have gone to the exception we really fell through the cracks. So what I'm saying is, auditing, assessing, there has to be deliberate effort to really analyze the information that is in the database, to ensure that there is security has not been breached. It's not always that you would automatically know it's been breached, but the information, because of the way we've programmed it, can help us see whether some things are falling through the cracks. The other thing has to do with the data, the demographic information about the voters. We're saying they are minors, we're not sure. I mean, if the system accepts a minor's registration, it would mean that this person, and I think the presentation showed that some people have come back to register when they had registered before. So they were 16, 15 before. And if we did analysis, age distribution, we would already know that there are people who some ages are loaded at the time that we are preparing the list for elections. We also routinely would do the regional district distributions to see whether some areas have too many people and in a way signal where we have potential problem. Those were my issues on the security, but I think later I will come up with some other questions.
And to the UFP, you concluded that we don't have any minors on the register, and there are no foreigners on the register. What we have possibly is names of dead persons. Yes. But we know the dead cannot get up and go to thumbprint at a polling station to be verified so that you vote. However, what suggestion do you have as to how we clean the names of the dead out of our register? Because it bloats it for nothing and causes us unnecessary concern. But you can also let us know whether it matters at all that we expunge the names of dead persons from that register, since it has no consequence whatsoever. It has no effect practically on the voting that we carry out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you have rightly mentioned that the names of the dead have no consequences as far as elections are concerned. And the reason why I state categorically about the fact that there isn't any minor or foreigner in our register is because political parties had the option, and it was in the process, that should you find anybody ineligible, challenge that fellow or person or group of persons. And so once there wasn't any challenge and the process went through to register people, it tells the fact that there isn't anybody ineligible in that register. Perhaps you have now found out there is still the process to still challenge, and I think the processes are there for all those who want to challenge the 76,000 people. They challenge them individually. On the issue of the foreigners and the minors, you see, the pictures that were shown, they are like pictures that you can see that, faces. And I was telling about a book. You can't judge a book by its jacket. You can't say, because I saw the gods are not to blame, so the book means the gods are not to blame. No. You can look at a face and you think, like I was citing an example on the radio. If you look at Mr. Esiedun Ketia, you are likely to think that he is very young. Especially looking at his haircut. He looks very young, like a 16-year-old man. And so if you look at him and you judge that he looks young and so he's young, or if you look at me and you think I'm aged, it will create this thing. And unless
we have that mechanism to know what ages, and then we are able to find the cure to that. We are trying to, judge wrongly, and we are not judges. So let us be very specific and use that. There is always a due process in law. Once you just come into conclusion, you have judged, and the law requires that. Even that's why I cited the armed robber, who may have come to rob you of your wealth, your hard-won something. You cannot just conclude and act like, a mob action will not be acceptable by law. You have to still go through the process, report to the police, and the police takes on through the Attorney General, and then the person is processed before court. So let us do the right thing with the law, and the law is clear. Thank you.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. No, you first. 1.
Your name. The one you should. Let's get your name.
3.
Please take down the name of the number 1. Take the number 2 down, the number 3, number 4, so that we know that you are having it in that order.
Mr. Chairman, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Koko Anyidoho, and I deputize for the mosquito when it's not around. Well, my question is to the EC boss. It has to do with the deduplication exercise. As far as we are concerned, per your presentation, the political parties had a stake in this deduplication exercise. It will be insightful to know the regional breakdown in terms of which region or which regions have the highest numbers in terms of double or multiple registration. That's my simple question, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the details are available. They are just not on us now. But the political parties know where to find us and where we meet, so we would make that available to all of them. Thank you.
We kindly come to the podium so that we can help them capture our images well. Second is Mr. Kwabena Jepon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our question goes to the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Today is the first day that the Electoral Commission, I believe, has given us anything remotely close to a response. Remotely close to a response. And at least we are happy that they admitted quite a number of things that we said to them, attributing it to human error, adjudication error, but at least it confirms that the proposals we made to them were well grounded. And it is important that we recognize that. The letter we received from the Electoral Commission only last Thursday just asked us to provide for you the Togolese register, which I found a bit of an interesting request. The Electoral Commission has relations with the elections body in Togo. In fact, the former chairman used to be the head of the Association of Electoral Commissions in Africa. So it should be very easy for you to get that from Togo. And then also you ask that we should produce for you I think one of the constituencies that we mentioned that we believe the register has been tampered with. You have legal custody of all the registered. So that should be a request that you can satisfy yourself. It's there. And so we are very happy that at least today You've started giving us a response and you recognize that you will look at it. That's all we are looking at. And then you made another statement about we saying that the register should be thrown away because there were no residential address. I think that is not correct. What we said was simply this, that respect your own law. Your law says that you should produce the register with residential addresses. I know there are difficulties in that, but we are saying respect your own law. It's not a matter of we saying that throw away the register because there are no addresses. In fact, without residential addresses, it's going to be difficult to do proper auditing because all politics should be local. And so it's important that we recognize some of these things. This is something I wrote. In fact, the MPP has made several communications to the Electoral Commission on this matter, and we have never received a response. But you are duty-bound by your own law to produce a register that has residential addresses, according to your law. There's the impression created also that the Electoral Reforms Committee, because all of us were part of it, and therefore why should we come and bring further proposals to the Electoral Commission? It's important for us to clarify. The Reforms Committee of the Electoral Commission did not deal with the matter of the register. And I do believe the Electoral Commission was aware because the MPP placed that request in front of the committee, and the committee said it wasn't part of their remit. So we did not discuss the issue of voters register with the reforms. So I want that correction made. And then this goes to the Reform Party. You know, I think we take strong exception to the delivery of Dr. Percy this morning, during which he cast innuendos and insults and then sought to create the impression that we were fear-mongering. The fact that the Electoral Commission has substantially responded to a lot of what we've said means that we were properly grounded. And this is really, I would say, to borrow my good friend, that is very rich coming from a party that has not held a Congress for 10 years. And I think we shouldn't do that. We are here at the forum to judge all, and there should be no attempt to run down, especially when what we are putting across is well grounded. Thank you very much.
Mr. Emeka, not you. See, Mr. Emeka. Was it you? I didn't see. Huh? Or Dami rather. Emeka, I saw Emeka, I didn't see you. I didn't see you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for giving me the floor. I just want to ask this question straight away. There are Ghanaians outside who want to come and vote when voting is taking place in Ghana, whether they are in our border countries. I think we have solved this problem long ago, and that has to do with ROPAA. It is an act. And this question is going to the Electoral Commission chairperson. I heard her talk about resource in the implementation of ROPAA. But once it is an act, I think the country needs to take a bold step by trying to implement ROPAA. If ROPAA is there, those people who are staying outside, who are Ghanaians and want to vote, they can just go to the police stations or registration centers and register and vote. And I'm trying to find out from her, the commission, what steps are they taking in order to implement ROPAA, so that ROPAA will be a solution to people crossing border to come and vote in Ghana. That's my question.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have a pile up. I'd like to take some of the issues. Mr. Chairman, since people are taking exception, we also want to take exception to the questions being addressed to the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Chairman, I did my presentation on behalf of the Commission, so it is the Commission speaking, and I think it's beginning to get a bit too personal. It's the Commission and not the chairperson. On the issue of ROPAA, I don't recall mentioning ROPAA in my presentation, much less saying that resource is the issue. But if we need to address ROPAA, yes, resource would be an issue. We need to, together with the political parties, like we always do, work out the modalities for implementing ROPAA. But when you have a lot of agitations about people crossing the borders of neighboring countries into Ghana to vote, and the issue of who is a Ghanaian national and who is not, it's very difficult at the same time to start implementing ROPAA. It may seem like we're compounding the problem. So we do need to work out modalities for Ghanaians who are resident outside Ghana to vote. Indeed, ECOWAS would have been a good starting point. When you talk to Kenya, that's what Kenya did. They've started with the SADC region, and then they are going to spread it to the continent and take it outside. Maybe when we all come together and agree and appreciate that we have Ghanaians, particularly in neighboring countries, and try and establish that number, then it is easy to implement ROPAA without dealing with accusations of allowing foreign nationals in neighboring countries to vote. So this is something we need to work out with the political parties, and we intend to do that. Mr. Japong says all politics is local. True, Mr. Chairman. And it's the same thing when you start dealing with residential addresses. In a country where we do not have established street naming systems, and we're all now working at it together, they should appreciate that you would not get the addresses of everyone on the register. We also cannot have a register that excludes a large majority of people simply because the person is sleeping in a kiosk, still Ghanaian, still above 18, presumably of sound mind, and should be allowed to vote. So these are things that we should all work together to resolve. However, the register in its current state, in the database, we do have addresses. When we're printing it out, it makes it really, really bulky. And the political parties are aware of the costs and the trouble it takes the EC to print copies of the register for every party and every candidate. And so it's really a resource logistics issue. But we do have the addresses on the database, and we would look at how we can incorporate that into the copies that we give out to political parties. I do not recall recognizing and accepting the many grounds in the MPP allegation. I think what we tried to do, because of the anxiety yesterday that was expressed that we had not responded to the allegations, we spoke to some of them, we tried to bring some clarity to it. And I know Mr. Japong knows that I'll be writing him a very long response to all the allegations and claims made. But we thought it was important to at least show them that we've documented it, we've worked on it. With regard to the letter we sent to you on the 19th of October, indeed, not only is the former chairman of the Electoral Commission the president of the Association of African Electoral Authorities, so is the current one. But it still doesn't give me the right to insist that the Togolese would supply me with their register. Since you already have it, and we know it is trite learning in law that he who alleges must prove. If you allege that you've done some analysis on a register, and just from 10% of that analysis you found 76,000 names, we think it's important that you share the source document with us. You brought it up. It's just nice, it's respectful, it's cooperative in the interest of the spirit of transparency and collaboration which the EC has always established with the political parties. We don't understand why you would want us to now go and start the process of applying. Time is of the essence. You have claimed, you have it already. Please let us have it, so we can also see the analysis you've done. And while you're at it, an update on your analysis into the Ivorian and the Burkinabe registers would also be helpful. You did promise us that. On the register for the Shikakope, this polling station in K2 South, the reason why we requested it is not that we don't have it. As we said earlier today, registers are not static. The register we went into the elections in 2012 was updated in 2014 when we did a limited registration and voting. Now, if we need to really compare what you're saying and do a proper analysis, we need to know exactly which copy of the register we're doing, so that we also retrieve that copy at that date and do the same analysis. So it's not an attempt to frustrate the NPP. It's actually an attempt to make sure that when we're doing the analysis, we're both working from the same document. When the EC gives you registers, it's dated. So we just need to know what copy you're working from. So when we do the analysis together, then we can all look at the staple marks and make sure it's the same document we're working from. That's really it. I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Shall we have the next round of questions? 3 questions. Your name, please. Excuse me. Your name. Sorry? Yao. The second one.
Excuse me. I think those who have spoken before should give opportunity to those who have not spoken to speak.
Sorry? Theophilus Aye. Behind. Charles, did you word? May we have Yao Asani to the podium, please?
Mr. Chairman, the chairman of the Electoral Commission has already said that it appears questions are being directed to a person, but this particular one, I want to crave your indulgence that it will still have to come to you. I have just one quick question.
If it has something to do with the Electoral Commission, you must not make it personal.
Right. The question is, Madam, in your submission, you mentioned the issue of public education being one of the key areas that we need to look at. My question now to you is, you were once the head of the National Commission for Civic Education. Having been in that seat, what measures or proposals are you putting in place to government or civil societies in terms of maybe logistics or building the capacity of the National Commission for Civic Education to ensure that the issue of public education really becomes focal in our political dispensation and indeed ensuring that it materialized? The second is an observation, a very quick one. The electoral malpractices in this country since 1992 has been instituted by only 2 parties. The issue of rigging and bringing people outside to vote, registration of minors, have been done only by 2 parties, and that is the NDC and MPP. The issue at stake is something we are all aware of with regards to busing people in to vote. And they are the people who are shouting the loudest. We are saying that until we get anything better out of the deliberations we are having here, it will be incumbent on these 2 parties to desist from actually ensuring that minors are registered in our electioneering processes and the issue of busing people across the borders to come and vote. Sincerely speaking, the Convention People's Party has been vindicated that we wanted a union government for Africa. If that were the case, today we would not be referring to Ivorians and Togolese as aliens. Thank you very much.
May we have Mr. Theophilus Aye to the podium?
May I again give a warning? This is open forum. Please let us limit ourselves to what has been discussed here. It's not a political platform for anybody to advance any idea.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Theophilus Tekwe, GFP parliamentarian candidate for Apamanya. Mr. Chairman, during the MPP General Secretary's presentation, he came out boldly that some Burkinabes and Togolese have their names in the Ghana's voters register. May I know whether he's having a documental proof to that effect? Thank you.
Mr. Charles Techiwedu.
Thank you very much. Mine is Mr. Chairman, mine is a simple one, and it goes to the Electoral Commission. When are we looking up to bring to a closure this whole debate about whether or not we need a new voters register? I'm asking this question in view of the fact that the EC chair herself has admitted that time is of the essence, and we seem to be running out of time, virtually a year to election. Thank you very much.
I think the answer to the question is that, you see, we're having a public forum, and there is a panel to deal with the questions.
I couldn't get that one, sir.
I said the answer to...
This is a question coming out from Mr. Ward-Brew's submission. And I don't want us to lose that, because out there in public, it could be in the minds of people, and it's a question of security. He raised the issue of screening people who go to vote, the possibility of people staffing once they get to that point. I'm not asking you to respond because you have made that. But as part, is there any assurance? Can the EC tell us what security system is in place in case somebody attempts to staff the box? Are you able to detect it in the sense that the ballot papers that you have, do you have any security markings that will be able to tell us that this particular one is not genuine, but a counterfeit one?
Mr. McMahon, please take your first question. And then 2 more questions. The lady at the back. Sorry? Pearl. Hi. You want to ask a question? Your name is? And the representative from Bishops and Pastors Network.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to find out from the Commission whether they have done any audit of their systems before. And when I say audit, I'm not talking about internal audit. I think throughout the discussions, there have been talk about pool agents are supposed to be there. They are supposed to check this. The register will be exhibited. You can go and object. For me, that is part of the process. It's an internal part of the process. But eventually, when the final product, which is the register, comes out, then an external body, but not an internal auditor, will have to audit the product, the outcome, which is the register. I'd like to find out whether there has been any audit at all in the history of Ghana's Electoral Commission of the quality and integrity of its register. Then secondly, this business of your agents were supposed to be there, they are supposed to check. The Supreme Court has ruled in Abu Ramadan versus the Electoral Commission in suit number J1 11/2014. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to quote. An unhealthy reliance on the challenge and complaints tier is bound to generate chaos, confusion, and anarchy at registration and pooling centers. It would indeed be palpably wrong to view the registration process as a license for either throwing overboard the constitutional restrictions or handling the registration process itself haphazardly. The interpretation urged by the second defendant, that's the Attorney General, and its underlying philosophy is negative. It does not promote excellence in work ethic, and the same ought to be rejected. It dignifies mediocrity, which certainly is not a value we in this court shall endorse or promote. So it is not the agents and people within the internal checks who are supposed to promote the integrity of the process. The Electoral Commission has a duty, as the Supreme Court has elucidated here. Thirdly, Madam, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. When the Commission was doing its presentation, it admitted, the Commission admitted that there were errors. Everybody knows there were errors. Some of them are human. But I think that the technical errors resulting from the computer and software problems cannot be cured by a cleansing of the register. It's like falling sick of malaria, taking malaria tablets, and then staying in a mosquito-infested nest. Until the system itself is overhauled, the problem, as we saw when Koku Anyidoho was doing the registration, if the national identification card has 13 digits, if you put in digits that are 12, the system will automatically reject it. That's what I'm calling about systems failure. So the system itself, and I'm happy the Commission in this presentation said they have upgraded the system since 2012 to 2016, and that an EFIS has been installed. We like to know which type of EFIS, because I have been to the website of STL and Genki, who provided the software, and they don't have EFIS. They have EBIS, which is different from EFIS. So I wonder where the EFIS is coming from, and that's why we have these multiple and double registration, etc. So we must look for the proper system that can cure some of our ailments. Thank you.
We shall now have a question from Pearl.
I think we'll just like to clarify something before the next question.
Pearl, could you please hold on?
Pearl, 1 minute, please. I think it's unfair, and I'm not sure it is prudent to say that when there's a bug in a system, and that bug affects 120 entries out of 14 million plus, then the entire system should be swept away, and cleaning cannot cure it. Every software has bugs. And that's why sometimes you're operating Microsoft Word on your computer, it freezes, then it says error reporting, it goes back to Microsoft, and then you have to wait and restart your system. We don't throw away our entire computer and say that globally we're throwing our Microsoft Office, we won't use it again just because there were bugs. Bugs exist in every software, and bugs can be corrected. In law, we also have something called the de minimis principle, that some things can be so insignificant that they do not impact the system. There is no software or technology system that is 100% error-free. And that's why when you're even procuring a software, there's a percentage acceptability that you say you're going to accept. So if a bug affects the date of birth in the system and pushes it to 0, instead of the actual date of birth and doesn't calculate it and puts a 0 age. For 120 entries out of 14 million plus, it cannot be fair to say that then that entire system has to be thrown away. If the STL does not own the Electoral Commission, the STL is the vendor of the Electoral Commission. STL would procure software for the Electoral Commission as the Electoral Commission agrees with them and contracts them to run the system, the BVR system. So if you want to know what software the STL has procured, I'm not sure you'll find it on their website. But you can always come to the EC and check what software we have. You cannot run a biometric system without the AFIS, and that's the software we're using, and we've constantly upgraded it. No one starts a process and leaves it where it is. Currently, we use the AFIS and the ABIS system. And I would not go to a software vendor's website to find out what particular software that vendor has contracted for a different entities is working for. I'm not sure you're looking in the right place. So, political parties have access to the Electoral Commission way more than even the average electorate. And Mr. McMahon is always in our offices. So surely he can come in and check that and find out and ascertain that we're using AFIS and ABIS. So.
Well, can we take your question now?
My name is Pearl Agbemo. I report from the Insight newspaper. Yeah. My question goes to those who are saying that NIA will be the solution to eliminating minors and foreigners from our register. I want to find out, was NIA registration not done before the acquisition of the biometric registration? If yes, then why NIA not involved in the biometric register acquisition from the onset? Would you say that the biometric acquisition was in a rush, hence proper measures were not put in place ahead of time? If it is so, why are we chasing ourselves to get a new one now, whereby we will realize in the future that certain measures which would have been put in place are being left out again? Don't you think it is time Ghanaians haste slowly in decision making, whereby we will not keep experiencing these kind of problems over and over again? Thank you.
Your question is directed at? Your question directed? Okay. Her question is directed to all those who propose that you use NIA as the solution to this.
Mr. Chairman, I think her question is rhetorical. It's a statement.
Representative from
I think Mr. Imani has a question to answer. They haven't done so yet.
Mr. Chairman,
thank you very much. This is a response from Imani to a concern raised by Dr. Kwenu. I would like to know whether it is a concern coming from the entire panel or from you, so that I know what to take back to Imani.
Answer the question as a general question.
As a general, okay, I will take the concerns expressed by a member of the panel to Imani and get back to you. Thank you.